class, as we can see, relationships are messy. That's just a fact. If you've read the chapter on relational dialectics, you'll know that relationships aren't a clean-cut thing. As we could see in social penetration theory, we're constantly in flux. We're constantly working on how close we're going to be to someone, and so we get to a certain level of closeness, then we back off, then we get back closer, and then we back off again. And that's just a fact about relationships. Well, this chapter on relational dialectics explains some of the reasons why we do that, some of the ways that we do that we balance our needs and our desires with our conflicting needs and desires with our spouse or with our significant other. So when we're thinking about relationships, we can think of this internal dialectic or this internal dialogue or conflict that we have within the relationship, and then the external dialogue that we have with our relationship in the community or our group of friends or our society or whatever. So in the chapter, they break it down into 3 different topics or areas that we have this kind of conflict with, either within a relationship or within the relationship in the community. So the first area is focusing on how we struggle in our relationship between our desire to be connected in the relationship but still be separate. So we want to be interdependent. We want maybe even completely dependent on our significant other for our needs and our desires, but we also want to be considered independent and able to do things ourselves. So when we think of this, an example of this may be you may really want to spend time with them every day, 24/7, but on that 7th day at the 24th hour, you may start feeling overwhelmed that you need to get out, you need air, but you still like them, you just don't want to be around them at that moment. So what do? This is what that's explaining. You have this need to be your own self, your own identity, but you also want to have this identity as part of the relationship. Now, the next topic within the relationship is certainty and uncertainty. When we think of this, we think about our desire to be to have a schedule, to know what's going to happen, to know what's expected. That's what certainty is. You know that every Thursday night's date night, or that he'll pick you up at a certain time every time, or that he won't pick you up at a certain time. You know that he's always 5 minutes late. Whatever it is, he or she's 5 minutes late. Whatever it is, you have the desire to know what's going to happen. But then you also have this desire to have some surprise, to have a variety of things. So instead of having chicken every meal, you may want to throw in some beef or something like that. You might want to mix it up next time you go to Mecca. That's that desire that you have in the relationship to do something a little bit different. You may see that you really like having date night at 8 o'clock every night, but maybe you need to switch up where you're going. So instead of going to a Mecca every time, maybe try La Terraza. It's this need to have some stability while still doing something new. So maybe that means you surprise your significant other with a surprise gift or a surprise impromptu date, something that's not planned between the two of you, but you do it to be a little more spontaneous. These are the constant tensions that are happening in the relationship. The next one is openness versus closedness. We talked about openness a lot in social penetration theory, that to become more intimate with another person, you have to be more open, you have to be more transparent, you have to disclose information about yourself. But you also have this desire within the relationship to kind of have some of your own things, not share everything, because that's the parts of you that you want to protect. That'll where you're most vulnerable, most likely. So you have this desire to share everything with your spouse, but then there may be one thing that you don't want to share because it makes you the most vulnerable. So you have this this tension between you and your spouse or your whoever you're with, your significant other, your boyfriend or your girlfriend. You have this tension about whether or not you want to share, whether or not you want to be open about your feelings, or whether or not you want to have some things to keep to yourself. So the next set of tensions are those tensions that exist between the couple and the people around them or their community, your social groups, your social worlds. So the first one is inclusion versus seclusion. So at the beginning of a relationship, you're mostly probably going to want to be secluded. You're going to get to know each other, become more intimate. But at some point, you're going to get tired of just being with each other. You're going to need that variety. So you're going to want to spend time with each other, but with a group or with some friends. So this may mean that one night a week you may decide to have friends over for dinner, to throw a dinner party, or you may decide to go out to eat with a group of people instead. You want to still be a part of these social worlds while still having this this secluded relationship. You still want to have your privacy in the relationship from the group, but you still want to be a part of that group. The next one is conventionality versus uniqueness. So you want to be considered traditional, but at the same time you want to be considered unique or non-traditional. So maybe you're a traditional couple. You're female, male, of the same age, of the same race, of the same everything, religion, everything. That's good, that's fine, whatever. That's what we consider conventional. But there may be something about y'all that are really unique. Like one of you may be very, very loud and vocal while the other one is very, very shy. And so that's what makes you unique. So there's this tension between what sets us apart from every other couple. We want to be like every other couple in that we want to be happy, but we also want to be unique so that we're special. You have this want, this need, this desire to be special compared to everyone else. So that's an explanation of the conventionality versus the uniqueness. Finally, we have revelation versus concealment. What do you share with your social groups? So you may have a group of friends that you've told everything to, you're very intimate with, but now you're in this new relationship. So do you talk about your arguments that you have with the person that you're in a relationship with? Do you talk about your sexual experiences? Do you talk about just whatever happens in your relationship, or do you conceal that? Do you keep it personal? This is the tension that's describing. What do you share with those around you, and what do you choose to conceal? You want to share with your friends because you want to be intimate with your friends, but then again, if you keep telling them you know that if you keep telling them stories about how y'all are fighting, then that's going to also influence the relationship. So that explains this constant conflict that's happening when you're in a relationship. So next we're going to talk about some strategies for dealing with that. Let me get to that real quick. When we're talking about strategies, the first strategy that the book talks about is denial. That's obviously not healthy. You can't just deny that you want to be, that you want to keep your own identity while being in this relationship. If you deny that, then you're going to have a lot of self-harm emotionally and mentally. So you have to make sure that you are aware of both parts of what's going on. You may think that you want to be with that person 24/7, but in reality, you probably actually don't. So you have this denial of what reality is, which is never healthy. So next is disorientation. The book says that this is a non-functional response that arises from an utter feeling of helplessness. So you're not denying the contradictions, but you're not really dealing with them either. You're just confused about what's going on. You're not aware of why you're feeling this way, so you just feel overwhelmed and helpless. This is also obviously not healthy. The next one is a spiraling alteration. So you have this openness, you have a problem with being open, but you also have a problem with being closed, but you deal with one at a time, and you go back and forth dealing with them, and so it's just going back and forth, and it's confusing and overwhelming. Next is segmentation. So you compartmentalize what's going on. You have these arguments, but you don't deal with sometimes the heart of the issue. You just talk about the exact behaviors and not really the reason behind the behaviors, or you talk about why you talk about wanting to go out, but not why you want to go out with other couples. So you're kind of dealing with it, but not really fully in the best way possible. Then it's balance. This is finding a compromise. This is trying to deal with how you want to be around other people, but you also want to have time where you're alone. So you may go ahead and go out to the party, go out to the club, but you choose to only dance with your partner. Something like that. Or you may have one night a week where you're hanging out with other people, but then the rest of the nights of the week you stay secluded. You find your balance of where are you comfortable and where does this conflict become irrelevant or not as pronounced. This is one of the healthier ways to deal with these conflicts. The next one is integration. It's where you find a way to just deal with it. They have an example that they have one rule that every Friday night they try to do something new that they haven't done before. This is very similar to balance, where you try to find a way for both people to get what they want, because sometimes one person in the relationship is going to want to be very open about something and the other person's going to be really wanting to be closed about something, or one person may want to be independent at this time, but the other person wants to be very dependent at this time. So it's trying to find a way where you can go ahead and come to the middle on that. Next is recalibration. You're trying to rethink on how the other person's perceiving the situation, or what's actually going to be the outcome. The problem with recalibration is you're completely deluding yourself with what's going on. You're not really in touch with reality. So even though you're pretending like these things aren't happening, it's going to come back and bite you anyways. And then the final one is reaffirmation, which is another healthy way to do it, to deal with these conflicts in your relationship. Is to know, because we're so close, because we value this relationship, that's why we're having these conflicts, because we want to have the healthiest of relationships. So it's not only, it's a step before trying to find the balance. We have these problems, we want to deal with them because we value our relationship. So then you find the balance, you integrate both people's perspectives. That's what you do. So we talked about what it means, for what relational dialectics mean. When we do this, when we look at your discussion questions, last week they were really great. You did a really good job dealing with social penetration theory. I would like the same thing this week. I'm going to post 2 questions. I expect you to answer them in about a paragraph each, and I want you to respond to one other person's at least to get full points. So you have 25 points out this week. Next week your case studies due, and I look forward to reading them. Best of luck. If you have any questions about relational dialectics theory, go ahead and send me a message and I'll be sure to help you. Thank you.